You know, if you have a recording device, you can. It doesn't matter if it's a well-produced record. It could be a simple demo and sound stunning.
It's like Bon Iver's first record,
right?
For Emma, yeah,
you know. So I call bullshit when people say, "Well, I can't afford the gear."
Right.
You know, they have all those fancy tools, and I just can't afford that. It's just me in my house. No,
that's an excuse.
You know,
right? A great song's a great song.
A great song's a great song, and the essence of the song is what we want to hear. You know, it doesn't have to have all those bells and whistles on it.
Sure.
You know, it should work with just you and a guitar across your kitchen table.
What's going on? Welcome to the New Music Business Podcast. I am your host, Ari Herstand, author of How to Make It in the New Music Business, the book. This podcast is brought to you by Ari's Take, of course. Today's episode is awesome. I'm really excited for you to hear this. My guest today is Chris Douridas. You probably know Chris Douridas from KCRW. He was the host of Morning Becomes Eclectic in the 90s. He has been at the station for about 30 years. He is someone who has pretty much hired most of the staff that we know of KCRW these days. He's an extremely influential figure in the LA music scene. He also started the premier LA music showcase evening. It's a School Night. Well, it's just called School Night. It's a schoolnight.com. And he is the founder of that. He's a music supervisor, and he was Grammy nominated for his work on American Beauty. He's done countless films before and after that. He is also currently still a DJ at KCRW. He was A&R at DreamWorks Records. He has also launched a publishing company. Needless to say, Chris Douridas' rap sheet is extremely long and very exciting. So we get into a lot of this in our conversation. We get into how he listens to music and whether he's going to take a song that he hears and put it on his next show and what that process looks like. We also talk about how he creates the music and puts the soundtrack together for the films that he works on. It's a very interesting process. So we get into a ton in this episode, and you're going to learn a lot. Chris also has a very interesting story as a theater major background. Of course, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Ari Herstand or at Ari's Take. And then please sign up for the email list. That can be found at aristake.com, where you'll be notified of all upcoming events and get regular information on the goings-ons in the music industry. And as always, please subscribe to the New Music Business Podcast wherever you get your podcasts. And if you dug this, please leave a review. Let's dig in.
I did a ton of plays in school, but, you know, when you're an actor and you're about to be foisted upon the world, you're thinking about, okay, waiting tables. I waited tables all through school. What can I do besides waiting tables? And there was this radio station in the theater building that I would always pass by and always be like, what's that about, you know? And I realized that they broadcasted Dallas from Fort Worth. So they were like, they had like access to a real audience.
Yeah.
So I thought, well, maybe I can volunteer there. And instead of waiting tables, I could be on the radio doing that, right? So I went in there, volunteered, and they gave me a news shift.
Okay.
And I came in to like rip and read the news one morning before classes. And they just wanted to try me out in the air. And I'm just going to tell you, between you and I, there's like what, 1.5 feet? Okay. Well, that's how close I was to the guy in the other studio who was the DJ who was doing music, right?
Okay.
And so I was going to be the newscaster that he would cut away to for the 3-minute newscast.
Yeah.
So there was glass between us.
Okay.
And I'm sitting at the desk facing him. And he accused me to do the news, and I'm like ready because I'm an actor.
Yeah.
So I'm like reading the news quite seriously. And the news story was the news that the Pope had gotten shot at.
Oh, gosh.
In his Pope mobile. And I'm reading this. This is a very serious story.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, while I'm reading this on the air, the DJ across the glass from me gets up on the desk on the other side, turns around, drops his pants, and he bends over and gives me a very shall we say, up close
Welcome
insight
to the station.
to his ass.
Oh, gosh.
And if that weren't enough, I'm like
Yeah.
trying to keep it in because I'm about to start laughing. Then he pulls his cheeks apart.
Oh, no.
And he presses his ass against the glass. It's literally like Rosebud kissing the glass right on my eye line.
This is day one. Welcome to the station.
My first moment ever on the radio, ever in my life.
Wow. And you stuck with it from that. After that.
This is pretty good.
Right. Man, this is great.
This is great.
I love radio.
I'm in.
Right. I thought cast parties were crazy. This is nuts. Right.
So I'm like busting up laughing. And of course, the minute I get off the air and I'm like, you mother,
Right.
phone starts lighting up, beep, KNTU, that was the name of the station.
Uh-huh.
The Pope, it's not funny. So I'm sorry, you have to understand, I mean, it was college radio.
Right. Oh, man.
Oh, so anyway, so after that, I was like, I don't like doing the news. I want that guy's job.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, give me a music show,
Were you into music before this?
Yeah, of course. I was I played music in high school band and stuff like that. But it was always,
a musician?
Yeah, I played saxophone, played guitar and piano, but I was never serious about it. I was always like working on plays.
Okay.
But so they gave me a show a week or two later. Some guy didn't show up for his shift, and so I got a Wednesday morning 6 to 9 a.m. slot that I kept all through school.
Wow.
And it was called the Morning Exchange.
Okay.
And it was a mixture of all styles of music. Blues, bluegrass, reggae, jazz, Motown, new bands from down the street.
Yeah.
And so I thrived on that, and I learned how to put different styles of music end to end to make a set work using all styles of music.
And how did you stay up? How did you learn all of that kind of music? Listen, source the music for those shows. And
that college, that university is, as you probably know, one of the biggest music schools in the country.
One of the best jazz programs in the country.
The jazz library there is insane.
1 o'clock.
Yeah. Yeah. So the 1 o'clock lab band is a big band. Anyway, so it was like the whole library was jazz, and then they had small sections of some blues and some reggae and world music and all that. That would come, the station was serviced. So they'd get stuff sent.
And so
to
would
them.
you go in outside of the 6 to 9 a.m. to just
Oh,
listen?
hell yeah.
I would imagine, right? Because you need to start collecting. And
any spare moment I had, I'd be in there like digging into Mingus, and that's where I got my jazz learning. And I fell into Mingus and Coltrane, and hearing other people's shows too. You'd be turned on to stuff, and Eric Dolphy, and all those jazz guys. That's where I got my stripes in the jazz world.
What was your music taste leading up to that point? Like, what would you
Pretty
love listening to in
shitty.
high school, really?
I mean, I can tell you. I mean, my first high school loves were. I mean, I grew up on Elton John and Billy Joel, and then into high school, it was more like Loverboy and the Cars were massive for me.
Yep.
The Police. And getting into college, it was Squeeze and.
Yeah.
But on the for me, jazz was David Sanborn. I was not hip in the jazz, until I got to college and started at that station. I was like, oh,
yeah,
this is really jazz.
Right. And then everything else, bluegrass, country, reggae.
When you start getting into organic and thoughtful and from, rich music, you start learning very quickly what's shit and what's not, And I'm not saying that David Sanborn was shit, but it was pop music. That was pop.
Right.
And so, I missed a lot of music trends because I was buried in jazz through those years. Punk I missed because I was swimming in the Mingus, Ellington, all that stuff.
Wow. Do you still feel like you have a blind spot for punk because of when it was coming up, you missed that
I'm the
era?
first to admit it.
Yeah.
When I moved to LA, and there's a few steps in there in between, but when I did finally come to LA, and there was like a big punk tradition, and the Blasters and X and all that. I mean, I was like, teach me.
You got to catch up.
Yeah, I got to catch up.
Right.
Yeah. But I knew every jazz singer. I knew, I could distinguish the artists that played saxophone. And
but you never.
That's Lester Young. That's,
Were a jazz DJ then, right? After this show?
No. Of course. No, I did.
Okay.
Doing that show, The Morning Exchange, through college, I thought I'm kind of good at I'm getting good at this. You know, I never thought I had a radio voice, but I thought, hey, I can put these shows together and I can tell it was good, you know? And so I thought, well, I need to get a job at a real radio station and get paid for it if I'm going to, finance my way into theater and and try to have a film career. Oh yeah, I'm an actor, man. I had a SAG card while I was still in college. I had an agent. I was going out on film auditions. I was serious. And the local NPR station in Dallas had an opening, and I applied and
as a DJ,
and they brought me into audition for a classical weekend show.
Okay.
Didn't know shit about classical, but I was still a waiter at the restaurant in Denton, and one of my regular customers was this guy John Large. He was a big vocal coach in the classical department at North Texas State. And I told him I was auditioning for NPR, and he's like, "Ooh, that's great." And I said, "But I don't know anything about classical. Could you coach me?"
Yeah.
So I went by his office, and he, Chopin, Brahms, Beethoven. He gave me all the pronouncers on everybody. It's Haydn. It's not Haydn.
Right.
All that stuff.
Yep.
And so I went into audition, and I got the gig. I was acting
as
a classical host, and I got the show.
Yeah.
So I did that for a year, and then the nighttime jazz guy got fired, and I got the jazz shift.
Oh, great. Okay.
So, and I knew jazz.
Back in your wheelhouse,
I was doing midnight to 5 a.m. 5 days a week, and then I got promoted into midnight to 8 to midnight, and then we all figured. This is like my third year at NPR in Dallas, and I was kind of starting to bump my head on the ceiling. But I was the early nighttime host, like 8 to midnight, Monday through Friday.
Yeah.
And a little side note, I brought in Liza Richardson, who was at a station down across town that I loved, and so she came and joined me at that station.
Nice. In Dallas.
Yeah. And that's how we met. But the numbers were getting so bad across public radio in general because...
And this is late 80s?
This is late 80s because classical... Stations were classical by day and jazz by night. And that was just a sinking proposition nationwide.
Okay.
And even though we were doing a good jazz show or did good classical shows, it was not a winning proposition. So they were like, what should we do? They had these little workshops with the staff, and me and another guy who had been at the college station were like, what about this eclectic thing? I used to do this show in college called The Morning Exchange, and what do you guys think about that? Why don't we spice it up a little?
Sure.
We had a classical show every day in the daytime, and that classical host would start adding in Sketches of Spain or some Windham Hill stuff or some Vince Guaraldi or things that kind of would play nicely, mandolin, bluegrass. And at night on the jazz shift, I started adding in Tom Waits and Ricky Lee Jones and Steely Dan and some jazz.
No angry calls coming in?
No, it was slow.
Sure.
Slow sneaking it in, jazzier Elvis Costello, Almost Blue, and, stuff like that. And Sly and the Family Stone, Al Green, we just slowly, and then over a 6-month period, we ended up meeting in the middle. The classical guy mixed up his stuff, and then there were things that we would start overlapping, and then by the end of the 6 months, we were full on eclectic.
Nice.
And the numbers were just going all the right direction.
Okay.
Texas Monthly Magazine did a cover story on our transformation of the Dallas Public Radio Station into an eclectic format.
Wow.
It was like huge news.
Sure.
And, I was featured in that article. And in that article in Texas Monthly Magazine, they compared us to a station in Santa Monica, California called KCRW. And I was like, look at that. I want to be in LA because I'm working in film.
Sure.
I'm going to go to LA and I'm going to work at that station while I'm continuing my acting thing.
So that was like the idea for the day job was going to be.
It's like my plan is coming to fruition. So I literally, after that article came out, I cold called Tom Schnabel at KCRW. He didn't know me, and I said, "Hey, we just got," I told him what happened. Jody Denberg, this great radio guy in Texas, put us in his cover story in Texas Monthly. Can I come out there and have lunch with you? Sure. Come out to LA, meet with Tom. Tom's like, I'm sure you could find something with us out here.
Yeah.
It's all I needed. I went back to LA, went back to Dallas, quit my job.
Oh, wow.
Moved to LA within a month or two.
Amazing. Oh my gosh. Yes.
First call when I get to LA. Hey, Tom, it's Chris. Remember we had lunch?
Yeah.
And on the phone, he was like, oh, wow. Well, gee, I mean, we don't really have anything for you, but, you know, I'm sure you find something around town. There's lots of stations. I was like,
oh, no. Right. It's like an offhanded comment during one lunch. You forgot it 20 seconds after you left. And like you rearranged your entire life around that one offhanded phrase that he said to you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah. I mean, you know what it is to be 26.
Right.
So,
oh my gosh. So what'd you do? You started waiting tables again. Right. Like,
I would have done that if that's what it came to, but I blanketed the city with demos and you know, and I even gave one to KCRW. I went to KCRW to the management, his boss, Tom's boss, gave them a demo, and press clippings, you know, pledge drive receipts. I had a press kit that was
pledge drive receipts. Oh yeah, because you worked in an NPR station.
I mean, I showed all the numbers of the pledge drives that had gone up over the last year. I had the whole thing fit for publishing, like it was a great package. And there was so many. I had won all these Dallas DJ awards and shit like that.
Great. Okay.
So I had a great press kit.
Yeah. Okay,
so I went around town. I knew classical, so I applied at KUSC.
Sure.
I know how to fake that one. And lo and behold, KUSC put me on the air. Jim Shveda, who's a big classical host, he still is here in Los Angeles, legendary host, amazing. He had a heart attack right after I moved to LA, and they needed somebody to fill in for him. They put me on the air.
Wow.
3 weeks after I moved to LA, I was on the air hosting Jim Shveda's morning classical show.
Oh, wow.
Doing my best to sound like I knew what I was talking about.
Right. Yeah.
God. And then, you know, this was May 1990. And then I did that for 3 months. And then Jim came back. But I was entrenched at KUSC, and I started working at Marketplace. They had a show there called Marketplace, and I was an editor there. And for a couple months doing that, and then Tom Schnabel announces he's leaving KCRW. This is 6 months after I moved to LA.
Wow.
After 10 years, Tom announces he's leaving.
Wow.
Tell the Marketplace staff, I'm leaving early. I go to KCRW. And I give them another package.
Wow.
You know?
Yeah.
Like prepared little, like it's a scrapbook. Sure. You know? It's well appointed, you know, it's footnoted.
Amazing, right. End notes, footnotes, all the notes, it's all right there, right.
I'm going to apply for Morning Becomes Eclectic.
Yes.
Okay, so literally the week after that I dropped that package off, Ruth Hirschman, her name was at the time, now she's Ruth Seymour. She was the matriarch of KCRW.
Sure.
She called me into audition.
Wow.
And I came into
audition.
What does
an audition look like for
you
a
do
radio
the show?
You do the show.
You come in and do a show.
But it's not actually on air. It's just
on air.
Oh, they put you on air. They
threw me on the air.
You into it.
They threw me on the air.
Wow.
And of course, I knew what I was doing.
Yeah.
Because I had just done it.
Right.
I was fully prepared
to
do an eclectic radio show. You know? And not in the way that Tom did. You know, I did it the way I did it in Dallas.
Had you been listening to his show?
Yeah, I'd been listening since I got to LA. I'd been listening for 3 weeks. Come on.
Okay, right.
No, I had been listening for that 6 month period, of course. And I knew how he was doing it, and I felt like I'm going to nail this because I was doing a really like almost commercial version of an eclectic show. You know, it was more, I think, a little bit more polished. And I can say that because when Tom had told me at some point that I sounded too commercial. So I knew that he saw it that way, which is fine. We're buddies.
Yeah.
He definitely, we would agree that I was doing a more sort of polished commercial.
Commercial, more polished in that realm.
Using the same tricks that you would do on commercial radio, but not being, hey,
and
trying to be
That's
cute.
what I think of with the
just
commercial
being more
radio.
like, you know, being mindful of keeping things tight, tight segues.
Sure. Okay.
Building sets in a tight way. You know, Tom We just had different styles. Tom would tell you every song you were going to hear in the next set before he played it.
Okay.
And I would use the element of surprise.
Okay.
You know, like come out of a promo and just go right into a song.
Yep.
You know, I wouldn't tell you before the promo, hey, coming up after this, you're going to hear these things. I didn't want to give you an opportunity or a reason to tune out.
Okay.
So the idea was like, let's throw something out there. If it sounds great, they're going to stay.
Yes.
So just throw something shit hot cool after the promo and people are going to stay with us. You know, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
You know.
So you nail the audition.
Or talking over music.
Yes.
Like you would talk over a bed.
Yeah.
You know, Tom didn't do that.
I'm always
you know,
curious about that, actually. So talking over music, how do you know how much time to talk as you're leading into the lyrics or to the verse 1 or something like that?
Well, you know how long it is. You're looking at a clock.
Well, but do you know when the singing starts just because you know the song so well? Or how does this work? Yeah, give it to me. Give me the inside scoop on how these DJs nail this stuff.
Well, you know when there's a song playing on the air and you're trying to figure out what to play next, because it's not always prepared. You don't prepare a full playlist before a show. Some people do and sometimes you do, but most of the time there's moments where you're figuring out. While the song's on the radio, here's how it works.
Okay.
I'll start over.
Yes.
Before I put a song on the air,
okay,
I listen to the end of it to know how it's going to end. So then while that song is now playing on the air, I have the end of that song in my head.
Okay.
So I'm like, okay,
Waiting
what
for
would
that.
go good after that?
Yes.
Is it a fade out? Does it end cold? And you know, what's the tempo? You want to match that tempo.
Yep.
If you want to match the beats, that's something else.
Sure.
So you know how that song is going to end if you don't know already.
Right.
And so, so you get the next song ready, and you're listening to the beginning of it. So you're like, 2, 3, 4. Okay, 14 seconds before the vocal kicks in.
Okay.
So you're like, okay, what am I going to say for that 14 seconds?
Yeah.
You know, am I going to say, hey, it's Chris Douridas, it's KCRW. You know, this is something new from Beck. Okay, it's 5 seconds.
Right.
So you let the song establish for 5 seconds, then come in on the next bar.
Okay.
Hey, it's Chris Douridas, KCRW,
So there's no like
something new from
special.
Beck, and there is Beck.
Yeah. Okay. So this is just all that you have to learn and practice how to do. I was.
Of course, you have to practice.
Well, no, I was anticipating there's some like technology out there that it's like, oh, you have 14 seconds until the lyrics
in
start.
commercial
verse
radio,
1.
they do have that because they're using the same, 30 songs,
right? Yeah,
you know,
every hour.
But we're not playing the same 30 songs.
Sure,
You know,
yeah.
every show that we all play, we're all playing stuff we've never played before. I mean, every single show, each of us is playing things that we've heard once, maybe.
Right.
When we went, ooh, I like this.
Yes.
And then it goes into our folder for the show.
You
know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
you don't necessarily know the song that well, so you have to finesse it, and that takes planning and practicing. You practice before the show, so you don't.
Now, when you're hearing music, and what is your method of saving songs that you like, so you know you can?
I drop them into a folder that is on my iTunes that says next show.
Oh, okay. So they're all you download them. These are all songs. That
well, we
downloaded,
get them
or
so many different ways, right?
Sure.
I mean, I'm literally taking CDs off my shelf sometimes and uploading them into my computer if they're old CDs. Where I'm like, ooh, I haven't heard that in a long time. By now, most of that's already digitized at the station and on my computer. But occasionally, I ripped something the other day from my CD library. But usually, it's now stuff that's in our inbox.
Yeah.
Or you know, we get things from, like you do. We get things from artists, publishers, labels, lawyers.
So yeah.
You know, I find things on Spotify playlists.
Okay.
It's one of my favorite things to do. Is like, oh well, I like, you know, I don't know, the Marias, for example. I'm going to look at their playlist that they put together because they're out traversing the world. They're going to find stuff that I might not find otherwise.
Yeah.
Or, you know, Maria might have something that she grew up listening to from her, you know, parents, that's some cool old Latin thing that I would have never known about. That she.
So the artist playlist, the one.
Yeah,
that
the
they're
artist
making.
playlist. That's
cool.
That's where I find a lot of great stuff.
Nice.
You know,
So
jazz
is it always been
things.
something? I mean, it's been part of your job, but how do you keep the passion for discovering new music? I mean, well, it's not everybody's passion.
I've never, ever faltered. You know what? You know what keeps your passion? Like every week, I go through definitely hundreds, but maybe more than hundreds, maybe thousands of like new things.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, next.
Yeah.
Next.
So
wait, this is interesting. Oh, no, it goes bad. Okay, next.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh my God, oh my God, this is so good. Back it up, listen to it. Flat, listen. Oh, this is amazing. Jump to the end. Oh, this is golden. This goes into the next show folder.
Aha.
You know, and you go through, and that's what gets you jazzed, right? Because you're going through all this stuff, and then, oh, this is so good. I can't wait to play this
so
one.
it really like stands out. Yeah.
You know, and that's what keeps you fueled, because that happens every day or every other day where you're like, oh my God, this is so good.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it's like. You know, it's like a fix. It's like a surfer getting that next wave.
Wow.
You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, like, okay, I like surfing again. Here's one of those waves.
Yeah.
I waited all day for this. We're going to shore.
Yeah.
You know, this is when those moments come across. You're like, I mean, I'm getting chills thinking about it. You know?
Yeah. Wow. How much time do you spend with each new song? Is it like 10 seconds?
Oh, wait, you mean
20?
when I'm like...
When you're listening, I mean like...
You listen to the beginning.
Yeah.
And then I jump to like 10 seconds in.
Okay.
It's not scientific. It's just like skip.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I see where that's going. Because you want to see where it's going.
Sure, yeah.
And it's almost like when you're scanning the radio dial and you're like looking for a good song. Like, ooh, that's cool. What's that? And then it goes south and you're like changing the channel again. So it's like that, you know, because anybody could do that that's listening to KCRW.
Sure.
Anybody could be in their car on the way to the grocery store, flipping on the radio. They could come in at any point.
Right.
And so if at any point it doesn't ring your bell, they're gone. And it's the same for me. Like if at any point that I can cut into that song, so I'm jumping through the track.
Yeah.
And if every time I jump, it's like, ooh, yeah, ooh, oh man.
Yeah.
Ooh, I like where that's a cool chord change.
Yeah.
You know, every time you cut into the song, and if it's ringing your bell, man, then that's a keeper.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm super picky.
Right. And so, I would imagine you have to be because you're probably inundated with just pitch after pitch after pitch from...
all day, every day.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, hundreds of emails every day.
And so I'm curious about the emails. Which ones do you choose to open? And which were like, what about a subject line or the sender gets you to open this email?
I mean, I have to be candid with you, man.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know, 3 years ago, whenever they had that option on Gmail where you could put things in social or promotions. Well, I turned that on.
Yeah.
So frankly, a lot of it goes into the promotions folder, and a lot of it I miss it.
Sure, that makes sense.
You know, there are, and you know this, there are companies that work records, right? That will like, promote your record, do their street thing. I'm not going to say the name of the company, but they'll take anybody.
Yeah.
If they pay a certain fee,
absolutely.
You know? And so I could literally, if I had my computer in front of me, I could type in the name of that company and show you hundreds of emails that I'm getting week to week from that company.
I see if these artists only knew.
Yeah.
If they only knew.
You know, and I could tell you this. I was in Nashville for some conference a few years ago, and I was, I was sitting out in front of a club talking to an artist named Liza Ann, who's great, and she played School Night too, and I was really digging her stuff, and we were hanging out, talking out in front of the club, and one of her musician buddies comes over, and she's like, oh, this guy's really good, you should talk to him. So I introduced myself, and he goes, oh yeah, we just put out a record, and I'm working with this company. I'm like, what do you mean you're working with that company? He goes like, oh, well, they're sending, they probably sent you my record. And I'm like, it's entirely possible they did, And I said, can I show you something?
Yeah.
And he goes, yeah. And so I pull up my phone and I typed in the company name into my email, and it, filled. I said, look at this. And he goes like, what's that? And I said, that's all the records I'm getting from this company in the last, this is what, 2 weeks? I'm showing him. How many do you think that is? He's like, that's probably 200 bands. Gosh. Exactly. Look, I mean, here's one at, coming in at 5 p.m. Here's one at 3:20. Here's one at 2:15. Here's one at, going back and back and back and back and back. And it's just all day, every day, Like, how in hell?
I'm surprised they're still in business. Like, who responds to that? If it's just because then you lose that relationship if you ever had it.
Yeah.
I mean, because I'm sure there are emails that come in from people you know and trust, and then they get an open right away, right? Or is it more...
I mean, it's kind of random when it comes through an email. Well, the ones that don't go to the promotions folder, I see those.
Yeah.
And those are either from some kind of relationship of some kind, right? So yeah, those do pop up in front of me because I'm not. it's really rare that I go to the promotions folder. I might scan it, but how in hell? So it's, and again, you know this, but it's more about building momentum in a lot of different ways so that hopefully, you're going to, I might see that the name of that band might fly by my face here, but then it also might turn up on the, on the calendar at Hotel Cafe, or I might see their name, on the Echo lineup, or they might get, an agent might pitch them for school night, or what you start seeing this name, and then you might hear them on your colleague's radio show, whatever. It's sort of this, what do you call it? This sort of,
well, yeah,
it builds an awareness over time, and so it's mass. It becomes more sort of mass density.
Well, it's like that rule of 7. They say it's like a marketing thing. It's like the customer needs to be hit 7 times before they're going to purchase. And so if you see it in 7 different locations, and then you're like, okay, let me actually pay attention to who this person is. I've heard this name so many times.
Yeah,
and then it inspires you to take action. Maybe listen to the song.
But I think there's obviously artists that I come across every day that nobody else is pitching, or I'm not. Right. They don't have somebody working their record. They're brand new. I either stumble over them on SoundCloud. I go through SoundCloud a lot.
What's your SoundCloud searching look like? How do you go through SoundCloud?
I have my stream.
Okay.
That are things that I've clicked to follow. But then, you might see somebody that does a feature on that track, and you're like, oh, I like that voice.
Cool.
Then go to their page.
Yep.
You know how it is.
Yeah, sure.
But I'm trying to think of like an example of. Well, I have this one listener, who is a secret weapon of mine. Like he's a regular listener to my show, and he's taken it upon himself to send me things that he finds.
That's amazing.
And God love him. He turned me on to this artist a few months ago that I jumped all over and shared with my colleagues at KCRW. And
the most powerful listener in radio.
Yeah, but it's one example of how you come across things. And again, I'll hear something on a Spotify, an artist playlist on Spotify, who's obviously it's a buddy of theirs. You come across. I'm trying to think of other examples of how I've come across things so early that nobody else,
Would you say the majority of the stuff you play, or what percentage breakdown would you say are songs that you've been pitched versus songs that you discover through other means? You say it's a vast majority.
I would say it's mostly stuff I come through other means.
Okay.
It's stuff that you're pitched tends to be kind of noise-like, unless it's a real trusted resource, But I have an allergy to being pitched, Do you know what I mean? Like, you can kind of
imagine, sure.
I mean, you get these packages that I still get sent CDs, so I open the package. There's paper in there, and there's a CD.
Yeah.
We know what the paper says.
Right.
I don't have to look at the paper.
Right.
Paper's going to say, it's gotten play on this station, and it's been supported by this reviewer, and it's gotten on this playlist, and they are opening for so-and-so, and, they worked with this mixer, and this, that mixer did this record and that record, and this producer, you know what it says. It's just different names, same thing. So I open the package, and I throw the paper away, because really the only thing that matters is the music.
So nice to hear that.
Don't waste time looking at all that.
Sure.
I don't care that I'm sorry that they spent so much money on that nice headshot, but it doesn't matter. I can't show the headshot on my radio show.
Right. Yeah.
And it doesn't matter that there's little candies in there either, and little sparkles that fall out all over my dining room table. I don't need any of that. No swizzle sticks, no, coasters, stickers. I don't need it. Give me the record.
Yep.
And make sure that there's an email address on there somewhere or a phone number.
Okay.
That's what matters.
Important. Yep.
Okay. And then if the music works, I can always find a picture of the artist if I need one.
Sure. Right.
And if I want to know what,
who
makes the record and what producer and all that, I can find that online too.
Have you? Right. Well, that's good.
So I always tell artists, don't spend money on that crap. You
Sure.
know?
Has there been any packages that have stuck out to you where they did include something interesting, unique in the package? Like, oh, this is nice.
No,
No.
never.
Sparkles.
In fact, there's a curve, I think.
Uh-huh.
You know, the more cookies and brownies that come with the music, the less likely the music is of any value.
Aha. Okay. Well, that's noted.
Stop spending so much time
Right.
making cookies. Go write a great song. Seriously.
That's great. I want that on
I've
a
said
t-shirt.
that to so many
Yeah.
artists. I have.
Yeah.
Really appreciate the effort, but take that time and spend it, put it into songwriting.
You know, I find that we're at this really interesting time in the history of music where because
This is water, right?
This is straight tequila. We have an endorsement with Casamigos, and so we are contractually required to give a pint of Casamigos to every guest.
Yeah.
Must be just right. No, we're at this really interesting time in the history of the music industry where every artist has the same tools that pretty much the labels have, and that
Right.
we're kind of all on this equal
It's a
ground.
great thing.
It's a great thing. However, artists are, I'm starting to see, tend to put the cart in front of the horse in terms of
Marketing their music without a great song.
exactly
Of course.
before they're ready.
Tell me about it.
And
Yeah.
And so
I know.
because they're able to get it on Spotify in 2 days
Yeah.
doesn't mean it deserves to be
Absolutely.
out in the public.
That's
and
right.
so they don't spend enough time actually working on the music and the song and all of that. And so that's the challenge right now. I mean, I think for artists,
Well, because they think the song is great.
absolutely, of
You know,
course.
artists are not known for being their best editors, but some artists. And hey, my mom likes it.
right, exactly.
They said it's the best thing I've ever done.
Yeah, well,
Doesn't necessarily mean that it's ready for prime time, right? When you get those opportunities, when somebody's going to click on you or listen to your music, you want it to be something you don't have to apologize for. You know? And when I say apologize for, I don't mean quite literally, but I mean, well, it's what I did with what I had, and
right.
if I didn't have the money for the proper gear, bullshit.
Right.
If you have a recording device, you can. It doesn't matter if it's a well-produced record. It
Right.
could be a simple demo and sound stunning.
It's like Bon Iver's first record,
Right.
I mean, for Emma. Yeah,
So I call bullshit when people say, well, I can't afford the gear.
Right.
They have all those fancy tools and I just can't afford that. It's just me in my house. No.
That's an excuse, right? A great song's a great song.
A great song's a great song, and the essence of the song is what we want to hear. It doesn't have to have all those bells and whistles on it.
Sure.
It should work with just you and a guitar across your kitchen table, with a mic.
Do you still discover music live? Do you ever go out to shows and say, "Wow, this is"?
Well, I'm fortunate that I have a series that I see live music every Monday at school night.
At school night.
But I obviously I check out shows beyond that. But
Sure.
but school night is obviously a great weekly opportunity for me to hear artists that. Most of the bands that have played school night, we haven't seen them live before. They might be making their debut.
Right.
A lot of LA debuts, a lot of US debuts, a few world premieres.
Sure.
You can hear them online and stuff, but hearing a record online and then seeing them live is wildly different, as you know. And sometimes it's better live.
Yeah.
There are many, many times where I hear it on, and we book them for school night, and I'm like, oh, yeah, it's him. Okay. And then you see them live, and you're like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah.
And then you can go up to them afterwards and go, you guys need a better record.
Right.
Because,
Yeah.
I like what I heard online, but this, you guys are onto something.
Yeah.
And then the other thing can happen too, where it sounds amazing on record, and then they just don't have the show together. They don't. The show itself is not coming across. The songs aren't coming across in a powerful way in the way that they are on record. So there's, and sometimes you have. It's great both places, and sometimes it's not.
So let's talk about school night,
Sure.
because that's in its 10th year, right? Well, yeah, you
10.
just celebrated the 10
Well,
year.
no, 10 is coming up in April.
Oh,
2020.
okay. So you're about to celebrate the 10
April,
year.
yeah, it's coming up.
That's exciting. It has become the premier showcase spot for emerging
Well, you
artists.
can say that.
I mean,
I would
it is.
never say that.
I know you wouldn't say, but I can say that because it is. I mean, all the artists that I know, I mean, school night is what they have their eyes set on when they it is this.
It's the name. It's got a good name. It's got a catchy name.
Good name. Right. But how did it get to that point where it is this?
How the fuck should I know?
You started it. You should know.
You act like it was some plan. No.
Okay, so why did you start it? Let's start there. Why did you start School Night?
Well, I didn't think I'm going to start a weekly showcase. That was not a plan at all.
Oh, okay.
It was incredibly organic from the very first, you know, because you really want to know? Do you care?
I care.
I'll tell you very quickly. It's a long story, but I'll tell you quickly. I have to include this because I really feel like School Night was born out of love. I lost my child. It was 2010, and I lost a daughter. And the reason I'm telling you this is because a few months after this happened, some friends of mine, Gene Triplehorn and Leland Orser, they're both really talented, gifted actors. They were doing a movie about a couple who had lost a child, and they asked me to come on board to help them with the music. And I was a grieving father at that point, and I had to do it. You know, I did it. So that process of making that movie was a very powerful therapeutic thing for me to go through. The end of that movie making process, the cinematographer that was on that movie set up our wrap party. Her boyfriend owned a place called Bordeaux. And they had this wrap party for this beautiful little movie that was helping a lot of people that had gone through something like that. The wrap party was at Bordeaux.
Wow.
And that was the first time I'd been at Bordeaux. And I'm marveling at how beautiful this place is. And it was just one of these really feel-good nights that, you know, you felt like there was a lot of love in the room. Sure. You know what I mean? The owner was taking me around the building. He's like, you should come DJ here sometime. I'm like, I don't know. I'm a radio DJ. I don't know about making, you know, doing a club. Yeah. I was petrified. Yeah. Never DJed in a club before.
Sure. Wow.
Okay, I'll do it. I'll do it. You know, why not? Let's just try it. Wow. You know, you know, I should do this sometime. So yeah, I'll come DJ. And he knew I was trepidatious, and he was like, well, look, you could have a band come in and play after you. You know, and then it's about the band and not about you. You could focus on, hey, the band's coming up. Sure. You know, meanwhile, I'll just play these. So we scheduled a night. He's like, do it on a Monday because we're dark on Monday. You know, let's just do it on a Monday for the hell of it. Doesn't do well. Yeah. Okay. And I was like, but I want people to show up. I want it to, if I'm going to do a night, I want it to be, I want people there. Sure. I want it to be like a moment, you know? Yes. So Valida, who is a colleague at KCRW, I asked her if she knew a promoter, and she's like, oh yeah, you should meet Matt Goldman. You know, he can help fill the room. Nice. So I met Matt, and we made plans. We're going to do this on a Monday coming up here in April. Let's get this together. Yeah. Should we call it something? Sure. Okay. So Valida, Matt, and I were like, started making a little, you know, Google Doc of name ideas. Yeah. You know, Harbinger was one name that fell by the wayside. There were a lot of like, you know, Kiss and Tell. There were a lot of weird names that we just, you know, and Matt came to me at some point. He's like, I got the perfect name. Like, what? And he's like, School Night. Nice. Yeah, it's a Monday. Yeah. And all our friends were like, Monday? I'm not going to Hollywood on Monday. It's a school night. Yes. You know, it's a perfect name. Nice. Yeah. So we lined up. I had Dawes headlining that show. Wow. And The Like, a band called The Like, was opening for Dawes. Remember The Like? Yeah. And then the worst thing happened. I found out I had a conflict, and I was like, oh shit, I picked a date. So I was like, can I do the next Monday? And they're like, okay, do the next Monday. And then Ann Litt came in and DJ'd that first one.
Okay.
So now he's like, okay, well, let's just do a month.
Yeah.
We'll do a month.
Sure.
So Ann did that one. I wasn't even at this. I wasn't
You
at the first school night.
ever.
And then, so the next week, I called Brett Denon and he agreed to do it.
Nice.
He was coming in. And a couple days after I had booked Brett, I was at a restaurant in Hollywood and I ran into Chrissy Hine, the Pretenders. And I'm sitting there talking to her and she's like, I'm just here for a couple days, but I thought maybe I should do an underplay somewhere. Nice. Nobody knows I'm here. It'd be kind of cool. I was like, yeah. She goes, do you know a place where I could play? And I was like, funnily enough, I do. I told her what was going on and she's like, well, let me check out the venues. So the next day she came down in the afternoon to check out Bardot. She's like, I'm in.
Wow, even after seeing it. Because that's the thing about there's a thing about Bardot. I'm like, let me tell you, like, it has this reputation.
Yeah.
But that is the most surprising thing to everyone
It's not
who
a
shows
venue.
up. It's not a venue.
It's not a venue.
No, you show up and I mean,
Yeah.
it's just, there's virtually no stage. I mean, the stage is like 2 inches high or something like that. And people are standing around, crowding around. I mean, that's part of the appeal. And that's,
It's weird.
I mean, it's weird.
And then the artist is on stage and they have to like look sharp left and sharp right to see the crowd.
Right.
Because right in front of them there's a wall.
Yeah. I mean, but it's become wildly popular. I think that's part of the appeal. It's something, what's nice, it very much breeds conversation and networking. And that is something that is, I think, one of the...
it's got ante-rooms. It has places, there's a flow. You can, and we found out the reasons that it works because we've been to venues where it doesn't work in New York, which we can get to, but there's a flow.
Yes.
You can take laps. And if you're not digging the band, you can go off into a corner somewhere upstairs, have a conversation. If you're having a flirtatious situation, you can go find a quiet part of the building, and you can go out on the fire escape and smoke a cigarette, whatever you want to do.
Yep.
There's places to escape.
Right. And that, I think, is the big part of the appeal.
I agree.
Is because you see the band and then you go talk about them up there, and then the DJ's playing in between, and there's a dance party that sometimes little breaks out there. And
you have you have that little cove behind the stage where there's another bar. It's a little seedier.
Yeah.
There's little pockets.
Yeah.
Which kindle an energy.
Sure.
And a vibe.
Yeah, absolutely.
That is hard to duplicate elsewhere. So Chrissy Hine played that second school night, and we had a line 4 blocks long.
Wow.
And so we just kept going, and I was just calling favors left and right because I had known artists over the years from KCRW, and so I was pulling in Neil Finn and Lucinda Williams and Ben Folds and
I was
Moby
at the Ben Folds one. I
he
just
played
moved
3
to
times,
town.
I think.
Oh,
yeah.
So I feel like this was so you launched in 2010 school night. So this must have been when was his first performance? 2010, 2011, something like that.
I'd have to look it up.
It was pretty early
Yeah.
because it
was early for sure.
I just moved to town.
I think it was our first year.
Yeah. So I moved and I had just opened for Ben Folds like a year prior, and so I was kind of like, and I saw his name come up, and I saw this was coming, and so that's how I heard about school night was because Ben Folds was playing it, and then I went and like, wow, this is really cool and interesting. Got on the email list, and then been getting the emails ever since. That was. I mean, that's something that
I can tell you right now.
Oh, what is it?
Ben Folds. Ben Folds. September 2010. September 6, 2010.
Yeah.
And then again a year later. So he played twice.
Okay.
Yeah,
right.
So it was September in 2010 and 2011.
One of those shows, I don't remember the band, but I remember what happened was the band that played right before Ben at the show, he liked them so much.
I got the story. I can tell you.
Tell me the
thing.
story, because he brought him on tour, I thought. Yeah.
The way it happened was Ben had emailed me, and he's like, hey, I got a day off, and it's on a Monday. Can I do the school night thing? I was like, yeah. Because I had mentioned to him, keep it in mind.
Sure.
And he did. And so he's like, well, if you know any cool like local band that could open, I'd love to I'd love to support a local band that needs a little love.
Cool.
And so, Ben taught them some songs during the sound check and said, hey, I want you guys to come up and sing with me during my set.
Cool.
So he taught them some songs. Lady Danville opened. Ben did his set later. They joined him on stage for some songs. And then afterwards, he's like, I said, what'd you think? He's like, I think I want to take them on tour with me.
Man,
so he broke it to him backstage. Like, would you guys, and they had a touring career before they had anything else.
Yeah, I mean,
they got a booking agent from that.
Wow.
And they literally had a big touring year because of Ben.
Had they been a band for a very long time?
Yeah, they had, for, I don't know, a year and a half. Okay. Something like that.
Okay. Man, there's so many, but those kinds of stories, they're just happening all the time at school nights.
Hopefully. That's, you want it to, if it feeds into the community, the Los Angeles music community, that artist community, I feel like if we're not part of nurturing the area, the scene here, then we're doing something wrong.
Yeah.
But
it's the thing where I'm now going and I see people. I'm like, oh, who are you here to see tonight? I'm like, I don't know. I come every week.
Perfect.
And that's the thing.
Yeah. That at the beginning, the first few years, it was like people were coming because of who was on the bill.
Right.
Because we had Tears for Fears, or because we had, Ben
Folds. I was there, right?
Huh?
Ben Folds.
Ben
That's why
Folds,
I was
right?
there, right?
Yeah. So people were coming for the bill, and then we started to see a change. I don't know, 4 or 5 years in. I would go around. I'd say, I was kind of not annoying about it, but I would subtly go around and go, so who'd you guys come to see tonight?
Yeah.
And I started hearing, oh, I don't know, who's playing? Wait, who's on the bill?
Yeah.
Like, we just came down because we heard, because it's fun.
It's the spot.
Yeah. And I was like, okay, well then we're doing good. Because people were just coming because it was good for them to come. They just thought it was a fun place to come.
Yeah. And you're still DJing most of
them,
right?
In fact, I've got to be there in a hour and a half.
Yeah.
But I still right at doors when there's nobody there.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You're the early set. Yeah.
There's nobody there when I start DJing.
Okay.
Which is perfect for me.
Yeah, sure.
I love it. But I like it because I get to start the vibe. I can play a Billie Holiday song for my first song if I want to. Cool. I mean, I could anyway.
Yeah.
Because it's my freaking night.
Right.
But nobody's looking at me cross-eyed when I'm opening with a Billie Holiday song or whatever. Ella Fitzgerald, or I definitely I usually drop some jazz to start the night. Or some cool like Elmer Bernstein or whatever, and
Do you have if people say, what kind of music are you into? How do you answer that question?
What I'm most excited about right now.
Yeah.
That's really what I'm into.
Right.
Who did I hear? We're digging Lewis Baker, new artist from New Zealand.
So it's just the artist of the moment is
really
what you're
what
into.
I heard
because it's not, it's people like
5 days ago.
I'm into hip hop, or I'm into rock, or I'm into
I would
metal,
never
or
give you a genre as an answer.
Sure.
There's great music of every stripe.
Yeah.
And most of the artists that you're really digging have a little bit of everything in them. What are the Beatles?
Right.
The Beatles are the most eclectic band ever.
Yeah.
Right? There's Indian sitar music in there. There's like vaudevillian stuff in there. There's, acoustic folk in it.
Yeah. Because it's interesting, because you've done so much music supervision as well. And with that, you have to be a very specific, it's a very specific process, not just putting on what you like necessarily. You have to fit the tone and the vibe. Oh, okay. All right. Educate school me on this, because but it has to. There's a tone and a vibe, and you have to match the essence of the picture, or at least the
I would challenge.
I
would change that. I would say that the finished product of a film creates a tone and a vibe that is born out of what elements are in it. So it's not like going in. You don't at the very beginning of the process go, we want this movie to sound like. This vibe.
Yeah.
And so all the ideas have to kind of fit into that vibe. No, that's not how it works. You're answering the dramatic needs of the story.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And those lead you to create these fitting choices, or come up with these fitting choices that help underline the drama of the story, and then you end up over time of finishing the movie, creating this tone and vibe that's born out of the story and the characters.
Do you feel that each project that you work
God, that
on?
sounded like something that would be.
I mean, that was pretty fantastic. We'll write that down.
Yeah.
That'll be the moment that we play before.
It sounded pretty high and lofty, but what I'm trying to say is, I can only speak to my own experience on movies, but I've done 50 or 60 movies, right? You never know what you're going to start. You don't know where it's going to go. You're starting from zero. You're starting with a script.
Right.
There's no tone in the script.
You're starting from the script even before, so you start working on the music
before they shot a frame.
Wow.
Of course.
Oh, okay.
Now, there are examples where you come in late because
Sure.
you thought about it at the last second.
So that's very different from TV, because TV, you work with the episode given to you, right?
No.
No.
I
you still
start
start
with a script.
Okay.
Yeah, you're on the creative team with everybody else. You're starting from auditions.
Wow.
You're there. I mean, ideally.
As a music supervisor.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's the same fee if you start then or you start later.
Sure.
It's the same fee.
Yeah.
You know, and I always tell the producers, don't wait. Because I can give you example after example where an idea of music a musical idea that you've given to the director before they start shooting can change what they're going to shoot.
Whoa.
Here's an example.
Yeah.
I got brought on to Austin Powers. I don't know if you saw Austin Powers.
Saw all of them.
Okay, the first Austin Powers, obviously.
Yeah.
We didn't know what Austin Powers was.
Yeah.
You know, my first meeting with Mike Myers, he was showing me a clip of him improvising this character, Austin Powers, at the Groundlings. It was literally like, you know, somebody had shot a little loose video of him up on stage doing this character. Like, okay, that's the character. Here's the script. Went and read this script, came back, met with him again, and we're talking about the creative in it. And he's like, you know, it's late 60s, but it's, and I'm paraphrasing, but before the drugs kicked in, you know, like, the sunshine 60s, the happy 60s, not 68 drug, you know, heroin, you know, not Martin Luther King died, Bobby Kennedy died, not before that, you know, before the Summer of Love. So 66, 67, everything's peachy, you know, it's kind of happy-go-lucky 60s, right? And he was like, had this word shagadelic, right? But he's like, what does shagadelic sound like? And so at this little creative meeting, we're like throwing out names, you know? And he mentioned Burt Bacharach. I was like, well, I just had Burt Bacharach on my show. I know he's open to doing things. Why don't you just get Burt?
Yeah.
You know, he's like, oh my God, do you think he would do it? Of course, why not, right?
Yeah.
But I went away from that meeting, went back to the station, and started rifling through the music library and just pulling things that felt like what we just talked about, you know, and I put together a compilation, and I brought him the first compilation. The first compilation had this thing by Roland Kirk. Remember, I had a jazz background.
Yeah.
So I had this Roland Kirk thing called Soul Bossa Nova on that first compilation.
Yeah.
The next meeting I go to, I walk into the meeting, and he's like, okay, everybody, we're going to rewrite the beginning of the movie. He's like, we're going to do it like Help, you know, like the Beatles. And he goes over and presses play on the jam box and presses Soul Bossa Nova, starts playing, right?
Yeah.
And he starts dancing around the office like, this is what we're doing. You know, it's like, you know, it's just like the Beatles running from, you know. But the music made him change the way he shot the movie, the way they started the movie. They changed the beginning of the movie, you know?
Wow.
And so and it turns out he's like, he'd forgotten about this song. He goes, I knew the song because it was part of a theme of some show he grew up with in Canada. I didn't know that, you know? But it was like, if they had waited to the end, that would have never been in the movie.
Yeah. I mean, that even feels kind of like a musical, like a musical theater kind of moment, more or less.
And it became the theme for that. Like, they can't do an Austin Powers movie now without that song.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the one thing that everybody remembers from. Yeah.
But if they had waited till post,
sure,
wouldn't have happened.
Wow. And is that how most films work? You're there from the beginning?
Most of the time.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if you're coming in late, it's because it was a tiny little independent movie and they didn't have the money for that, or they fired somebody.
Yeah. Okay.
And you're replacing somebody.
you feel most have...
or there's also opportunities where like movies, they thought they would just have score the whole time, and then they end up shooting and they realize there's an opportunity for some songs.
Yeah.
And then they bring you in. But
do most films have sonic boundaries that you work within? Meaning...
No, my job is to help them figure out those sonic boundaries.
Yes.
So, because I'm usually there before they hire a composer, so I'm helping them, with composer ideas.
Yeah.
The whole job at the beginning is to define the musical world that this story lives in.
Okay.
So most of the time, the director has no idea what they're thinking music-wise. Occasionally, you find directors that are like big music heads, and they're very clear about what they like, and there's like a song they want to start with. Like on The Addams Family, I just did The Addams Family, the animated version of the film. Conrad Vernon, I'd worked with on Shrek. I did the Shrek films.
Yep.
And Conrad is a big music head, and he was like, we want this to be like, Eastern European authentic gypsy music for the score. And so that, steered us in a direction toward composers.
Okay.
And then when it came to like the openings, the songs for the movie and what the movie might open with, and I knew he was thinking this because we were friends, and he shared this with me early on, but he was like, he played me a song we all know and love, Screaming Jay Hawkins, I Put a Spell on You. You know what I'm talking about, right? It's got this loping kind of 50s jazz, noirish kind of, it's a really cool, and there's something about it that almost feels Eastern European. I'm not, sure if I can put that into words, but it does feel sort of, Anyway, so that was like the hub of the wheel that everything else would kind of pinwheel off of,
Yeah, yeah.
So when you have, and I've worked on films before where we've zeroed in on, okay, this is the sort of kryptonite, this is the clue, the main clue of where everything might kind of spin off of that. But that doesn't mean it's all going to sound like that. It just means it has to somehow kind of fit nicely with it.
Sure.
Look at Pulp Fiction, one of the most famous soundtracks, right?
Yes.
And still one of my favorites.
Yes.
There's a Pulp Fiction sound.
Yeah.
Right? We can all sit here and play any song and go, that fits the world of Pulp Fiction.
Definitely.
That one doesn't.
Yeah.
You might hear a song and go, ooh, that sounds like Pulp Fiction.
Yeah.
Right? That movie did an incredible job of building a sonic world, a musical world that story lives in, that is unique to Pulp Fiction.
Did Quentin Tarantino did he pick all the music
He
for it?
basically, he wrote to the music, and, and there was a supervisor, but she, and I've talked to her about this, so, they're largely serving his vision. I mean, you're always serving the director's vision, but in his case, he's got solid ideas of what what he's looking for and what he's written to, and you might bring him things that are in that same. He's like, oh yeah, that's kind of cool. I didn't know that. It fits. So there's ways you can feed things to him, but he's very particular. So my point is that if you look at the songs that are in Pulp Fiction, you've got like a Ricky Nelson song, you got a surf song,
right?
You've got Ricky Nelson's from the late 50s, right? And you got this surf thing. Then you've got like Urge Overkill, this alt rock band. Right. I mean, if you take song by song, it's they'd all end up in a different genre bin at the record store in a journalist's review. Yeah, they're all different, quote unquote, styles of music. Genres are another thing I have an allergy against, but genres are things journalists need to describe something because they can't play you the music. I'm in radio, right? I'm not going to say, hey, coming up next, an alt rock song from. No, you decide what it is. I'm pressing play.
Yeah, yeah.
But if you took every song in Pulp Fiction, they on their own don't sound like what you might call a style or a genre of music, but taken together with this story, it's a sound.
Yes.
And that's what I'm doing on every film. That's the goal. Okay. And you are, there are varying degrees of success with that, and some are more exhilarating than others, but that's the goal. You're creating a unique musical world that this story lives in.
American Beauty, you had a Grammy nomination for.
Yes, that's true.
And tell me about the process of that. Did that feel
getting a Grammy nomination?
Yes. Going to the Grammys. Let's
I
talk
didn't
about the red carpet.
I didn't even know there was a category for this, for soundtracks. And it turns out that I was right. There wasn't one until that year.
Really?
I walked into my office the morning the nominations came out, and my assistant was like, "Congratulations on the Grammy nomination." And I was like,
what'd I do?
I laughed. I was like, "Ha ha." She's like, "No, really." I was like, "For what? What do you mean?" She goes, "For the record." I'm like, "What record?" I'd worked on several records, and she's like, "American Beauty." I'm like, the Grammy, they don't. No, they opened a new category and were nominated. I was like, "Ha, okay, wow." But what do you mean? What do you want to know about the process?
Did it feel different working on that film than other ones, or is it just because of the success of the movie, people were looking at the soundtrack a little bit deeper? Do you?
I think that we had the benefit of the success of that movie. I think in hindsight, I wouldn't necessarily. I mean, I'm proud of the movie, and I'm proud of what we put in the movie, and certain songs in particular. But
is it your best work you've ever done?
As a soundtrack? No.
Yes. Okay. That's what.
But American Beauty was. It was unique because I was working at DreamWorks at the time, and I was a A&R executive there.
Right.
And so because I had done films as well, I was staying in close contact with the film division at DreamWorks.
Oh, okay.
Just to let them know, hey, if you guys need any help with things,
cool.
You got any movies coming up that might, And the producers, Dan Jenks and Bruce Cohen, who were at DreamWorks, said, well, we're working on this movie that we don't have a director for yet, and it's called American Beauty. They sent me the script by Alan Ball, and I read the script, and I was like, whoa, this is one of the best scripts I've ever read in my entire life. They're like, I know. Isn't it? And they had, they brought in Sam Mendes, who had done Cabaret on Broadway, and so I was jumping to do this movie. They said, well, when we get a director, we'll let you know. You can interview with the director. So when they brought Sam on, I brought him a collection of ideas for the meeting.
Nice.
And I said, here, I love this script. I'd love to help. And he hired me.
Cool.
And on that original tape was Betty Carter, Open the Door, Use Me, Bill Withers. There were things that ended up in the movie. Yeah.
Yeah.
And over time I pitched them American Woman.
Yeah.
I was working on the second Austin Powers at the same time, and I pitched both movies, American Woman. and Sam comes to me at some point. He goes, I think we're going to use American Woman. I'm like, oh, but wait, I also pitched it for this other movie I'm working on, Austin Powers too. Yeah. And I think they're going to use it too. He goes, oh, I don't care. It's different audiences. Right. Okay. Yeah. So the song ended up in both movies.
That's amazing. There could be more different films.
Yeah, Kevin Spacey's singing it when he's going through the drive-thru in American Beauty.
Yeah.
And in Austin Powers 2, Lenny Kravitz is doing a cover of American Woman.
That's funny.
But
wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So because you were at DreamWorks, did you start A&R there? Because you were at Geffen Records.
I was Geffen before DreamWorks, just as a consultant.
Okay, and then David Geffen started DreamWorks.
And then
Records?
David Geffen started DreamWorks Records, and they brought me over from Geffen to be a full-on exec. Yeah.
And what was that process like now that you're looking at as an A&R person at a record label, looking to artists, not just songs anymore? Now you have to think of the entire.
In so many ways,
world.
I didn't know what I was doing.
Sure.
I didn't know what I was doing. I mean, I'd never been a full-on A&R executive, and they were a very hands-off team.
Okay.
Because they were a team of A&R guys. Yeah. From Mo Austin to Michael Austin and Lenny Warnaker and Geffen himself. I mean, they were all A&R guys. Right. So they to their credit, they left everybody alone. But I kind of needed some guidance. Sure.
Right.
But nonetheless, I did. I was there for 4 years and brought in some things. I brought in Eels, but I didn't work with them as an A&R person. It was like how I got the job. They were like, "What would you sign if you were an executive at DreamWorks?" Yeah, and I gave them the Eels. Yeah, I'm like, cool, we'll sign that, and you can be hired.
Oh wow, yeah, yeah. And so because how long were you there?
4 years.
4 years, and now you've kind of evolved into artist management.
No, I don't manage any artists.
You don't manage any artists? Didn't you manage Oren Levy back in the...
I don't know that I would call it management.
Okay,
we started a label together.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, to put out his album.
Okay.
Yeah, we had a label together that put out Oren Levy's album. Yes.
Okay. And then, but you started kind of a publishing division.
I realized that was kind of a final frontier that I knew very little about, and I wanted to learn about it. And I had a dear friend, Lionel Conway, who's a legend in the publishing world. He started Island Publishing with Chris Blackwell, signed U2, signed Tom Waits. Anyway. So he had been coming to school night, and I was like, I want to learn more about publishing. I'd like to learn from you. So we started a joint venture, and I brought him Andy Schaaf.
Andy Schaaf, right? Yeah. And
so I'm incredibly proud to be working with Andy Schaaf. He's got a new album coming. He's very special.
Did you start it because of Andy, or was Andy just the first
it was
artist
just,
or the
I was
songwriter
like, let's see
here?
what I come across.
Okay.
And then I had heard, I got sent in one of those packages I get in my house, a CD with some paper in it, and it was The Bearer of Bad News, and I was like, this guy's interesting, and I reached out to the manager. They didn't have a label. They had nothing really going on, and he goes, well, yeah, Bearer of Bad News is available, but he's also got a whole album in the can. Can I send it to you? And he sends me The Party. Andy's next album on a SoundCloud link. And I fell off my chair. I was like, wow. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
And so I brought it to Lionel. We went after it. I brought him to Tom Windish. Tom came on board as his booking agent. I brought it to Anti Records, and they signed him on the label side.
Amazing.
I mean,
so that's what a manager does. But you're a connector. Yeah. I
mean,
but you're
that's
not
what
there
producing is.
hands-on
That's what
every
managing
day.
is. That's what if you're doing it. If you're a good publisher too, I think that's what you're doing too. You're somebody that's on the team that's helping to bring value to the artist's vision and goals. That's what everybody on the team should be doing that. We know good and well that's not always the case.
Right, for sure.
But if you're bringing somebody, and I know you preach this, but if you're bringing somebody onto your team and they're taking a cut of what you're doing, they better be bringing value to what you're doing in every way. They should keep you top of mind. And we all know that these major publishers and oftentimes the major labels, the people running the company don't even know they have the artists on the roster,
right?
Let alone have heard the album, or keeping them top of mind.
Yes. So you've done so many things throughout your career.
Yes, I've been around for a while.
You've been, but what are you most excited about right now that you're working on or that's coming up?
Yeah, I probably can't talk about them, but I have I'm trying to do more producing.
Okay.
I have some
like film producing,
film
or
and
music
TV
producing?
and podcast projects, and
cool. Some
are involving music and some aren't. I can tell you about one of these projects because it's a book I've optioned, and it's definitely my project.
Okay.
Some of these other things people could run off with, but this one. Nobody could run off with this. And nobody would. Yeah. Okay. It's incredibly dark and terrifying. But can I tell you about it real quick?
Please.
So I was dating this girl in Iceland like 10 years ago.
Okay.
And we're in Reykjavik, and she's like, we're hanging out at the hotel room. She's like, hey, do you want to go to that party? And I was like, but she did it in an Icelandic accent. And I was like, I don't know. Yeah, let's pull the trigger. Let's go to this party. And she's like, pull the trigger? You Americans, you talk so violently. Like, what, Paul? Yeah. Oh, yeah. She's like, yeah, but you say all kinds of things, I'm like, oh, yeah, like riding shotgun or, bite the bullet and, collateral damage and surgical strike. So like, yeah, I'm flying back to L.A. and I start making a list of all these ideas that are popping in my head. They're all coming to me like, circle the wagons, nuclear option, all these things. Bikini, I made a list. I had 100 of these things by the time I got to LA. I was like, there's something here.
Wife beater.
Yep. It's on my list, You hit on a woman.
Yeah.
What's that about?
That is really interesting. I never thought about that. You don't think
horrifying.
about a lot of these things, right?
It's horrifying, yeah.
Right.
So when you see them in a group. It's like, wow.
Right.
You know? Shoot yourself in the foot. You know? Drink the Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I could go on all day. But one of these words, bikini, kept drawing me back because there's a lot of violence and
I don't know
death behind the word bikini. Do you know the?
No,
okay,
I don't know
so
the origin.
I didn't
bikini.
either. So I vaguely knew,
Yeah.
but I looked it up, and you know, any Google search will tell you that the guy that invented the first bikini back in the 40s, he was looking for a name for his new little skimpy swimsuit, and in the headlines that summer in Paris and around the world, we were doing atomic testing in the Bikini Atoll in the Pacific.
Oh, wow.
Like severe. Okay, so there was Hiroshima, there was Nagasaki. Those were the first two bombs, right? And then the third atomic weapon that we dropped was on Bikini when we were doing some testing to see what effect the atomic bomb would have on our own fleet.
Oh my gosh.
So we put all these, you know, decommissioned ships and submarines and stuff in a lagoon in Bikini and bombed the shit out of it.
Wow.
Okay. Well, wait. If we did that, what happened to the people of Bikini? What happened to them? So I'm already doing interviews for this book that I'm doing called Fighting Words about all these words and phrases that we have that have this violent background. So I fall into, I want to look for somebody that survived or was displaced from Bikini.
Wow.
And I go looking for somebody that had survived that. And it's a very hard thing to find one of those people, you know? A lot of them have died. The ones that are alive don't really want to talk about it. I ended up getting introduced to a descendant of one of them, and he's like, "Are you sure you want to be talking to me about this?" What do you mean? He's like, "Well, it could be dangerous." What? I'm just a public radio DJ. What do you mean? No, it could be dangerous for you and your family.
Whoa.
I'm in. I'm in. Anyway, he turns me on to a writer who wrote a book about his sister who had passed away from cancer from being downwind of these tests.
Wow.
Get the book, contact the author, option the book, and now we have the book out, and we're looking to
You're developing like a narrative.
developing it into
podcast. Wow, man, I got chills. I want to listen to this show. I love these kinds of shows. So you're getting into this podcast realm. How do you see podcasting being different than radio, and is it inspiring you in different ways? And where do you think radio's heading now that we have podcasts? And
I mean, podcasts are basically radio shows. I mean, it's got the name podcast because it's coming to you through initially iPods and things, right? So I think it's fantastic. I think that the fact that there's an appetite for people that want to hear, you know, deep dive stories and learn and explore and better themselves, enlighten themselves, educate themselves, entertain themselves in ways that they didn't. It's fantastic, you know. And we've seen examples of how these things grow beyond the podcast if they can build an audience and build, capture the imagination,
sure,
in the way that you hope to do when you set out to do these things. So it's very exciting for me. I've always thought that I would later get into, you know, more hands-on, ground-up involvement in some of these storytelling things that that I get drawn to. So
amazing.
Yeah.
Well, Chris Douridas, thank you so much for coming on the show. There's one final question that I ask all of our guests, and it is, what do you think it means to make it in the new music business?
Oh, come on.
Yeah.
That's an easy one. That's a lob.
Okay. Hit me. Let's smash it out of the park.
I mean, if you're able to feed yourself and feel like you're being creatively satiated by the work you're doing, is that not success?
I love it. I agree. Great. Chris Douridas, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.